Welcome back to Off Over 50 and Fire, Now What? With Linda.
And Shelley. Unfortunately, it's another cold, snowy day, but thank goodness we have a nice bottle of Almadi Petite to keep us warm and cozy. And yes, I've been practicing that, Linda.
She has been. She wanted to get it down pat. She didn't want to get any feedback on her lack of ability to pronounce the wine names. So last time we talked about when reality hits, the first days of not going back to work, our emotions and the different perspectives. However, today we're going to be discussing that even though you've left, you're still connected and there's a ton of confusion and paperwork that you have to get done around health insurance, severance, financial instruments like 401ks, pensions, stock options, and just basically getting your financial house in order.
Yeah, and I found it really actually more overwhelming than hearing the news of being severed. You know, there's just, to Linda's point, a lot of stuff that we have to address while trying to figure out your career options and your opportunities. You know, well, we both had to put our job searching activities on hold to get through, you know, all the stuff we had to do.
Yeah. Shelley, that is job transition activities. That's the new buzzword, not job searching.
Oh, you're right, Linda. I'm sorry. I'm old style.
You're old style. All right. So the first topic we're going to talk about is health insurance.
Right. And every situation is different. Some give you, you know, a certain amount of time and they'll extend your, you know, your pay and your health insurance.
And we're both very lucky from that perspective. Our companies did extend our insurance, so we really don't have to worry about it for some time. In my case, also, you need to look to see if you've qualified for retirement health plan. I, of course, have been working for the company for over a century.
That's right. 100 years.
100 years.
100 years of service.
So I found out that I actually qualified for a retirement health plan, which I can take advantage of, you know, once the insurance...
the initial insurance.
The initial insurance goes away.
Yeah, and, you know, unfortunately, you know, I haven't been there 100 plus years, you know, so I am getting a certain amount of time, you know, but in both cases you really need to apply for COBRA, which it can extend your health insurance, right?
Right.
For a certain amount of time, and you need to also, if you don't have COBRA, you know, look for alternative medical providers.
Right. So it's important to keep track of like all the future dates and when health insurance coverage is going to end, when you're required to activate something or move to another plan. You know, in our case, for the first time, we had to actually activate our health card insurance, which we never had to do before.
Yeah.
So another area of concern for a lot of people once they're in transition is all this financial shit.
Shit? Did I hear you swear?
Yes, you're having a bad influence on me, Shelley. Really bad. So you think when you're losing your job that the financial stuff would be straightforward, but what we found is that it's not, and you can't just take the money and run. So we're going to be talking about, first of all, severance pay and severance payout. In our case, it wasn't so straightforward on the timing. I just thought, hey, well, we end, we get our check, we leave. But no, actually, when we talked to HR, the payment on severance versus vacation versus 6 days, anything that they owe you, all we're going to hit the bank account all on different timings.
Right. And if you're really trying to manage, you know, your monthly expenses and stuff, it's really important that you find this stuff out.
Exactly. So we're going to first talk a little bit about short term and looking at that. And actually, one of our friends gave us a couple of list of questions and things to consider when you're looking at this from a short term perspective. So number one is make an accurate list of all your monthly expenses. And not to just do 1 month and think about, January, February, and just go through it, but actually do it for all 12 months. Because what you find is that there's payments for certain things like life insurance or taxes that fall in different periods of the year. So do one for the 12-month cycle for the full year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the other thing you need to consider is really about prioritizing them, right? So your expenses, is there anything you can eliminate, right? So for me, I don't need my 600 cable stations. I only probably watch 10 and probably could save a boatload of money.
That's right.
So, and then for you, one of the things you did.
Right. So I actually we had an extra car, which I took to the train station because I took public transportation each day to work. And so what we found is, well, I'm not going to work now. There's no need to have this extra car around. So we were able to save like insurance and then also make a little money by selling the car itself.
Yep, that was a good thing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And another thing you have to think about is, how long is your severance pay going to last, right? And do you need to have your savings help carry you over, until you find that other job?
Exactly. And then the other thing is, if you are thinking about doing something independently, like doing an LLC or creating your own business, is that you need to budget for that because there is a few costs that you have to do
associated with that.
Right, exactly. So make sure you put that into the budget if you're planning to do that. Now, creating your own LLC, your own business, or doing even a franchise or something like that you may be getting into it's a topic of its own. So Shelley and I are going to, hold that off to another podcast in the future. But again, from a budgetary perspective, make sure you have all that within the budget and you know that you can do it. So make sure that you check and register all the sites and everything that you need in order to manage and look up all your financial information, because you'll find out that it's not all in one place. There'll be something that you have in your personal financial accounts, some things with your previous company, which they'll continue to allow you to have access. And it could be a bunch of different sites, one for insurance, one for one financial instrument versus another. And that's a lot of logins and passwords to keep after.
It's overwhelming.
It can be very overwhelming. And my husband has been after me to get a password manager.
And what's that?
So that is basically you only have to remember one very complex password.
Complex.
Yes, complex password, but you only have to remember one.
Thank goodness.
And then that can be used to access everything else. So, and you have a place where they're all listed, and if you ever, not remember something, you can go there and you have a place that's extremely secure that has all that information, but you only have to remember one password.
Okay, so you know what? When you're ready to do that, have me be part of that.
You want to be part of it.
I would like to be part of that because, as you know, I'm always hitting the password reset on everything I do.
All the time.
I don't know. I think I've got like a sieve for a brain. I can't maintain them, and even if I put them, I put them away someplace. I think they're secure. They're not.
So the other thing that we want to talk a little bit about is the 401k, which is the longer term aspect versus the shorter term financial pieces.
And from a 401k perspective for us, we were really fortunate that our company had a really robust 401 program. Right, but no matter how good or bad it is, you have to plan to make sure you're evaluating your options.
Right, and the other added complexity, which I found, from my experience, is we actually had some company stock associated with some of the 401k instruments. Mm-hmm. So you had to do something different. That wasn't just a rollover. Mm-hmm. You actually had to take the stock out, and then you could sell it. Right. So
what happened for us?
Oh my God. We were idiots. So pretty much one thing is we weren't given the full story. So when you move those out from your company's financial maintenance or program that they manage, so when we took that out, we thought that those were going to come directly as like stock certificates or something directly to our home, but it didn't. It went into a third party that was kind of holding them, and then we had to tell that third party what to do with them. It wasn't automatic that as soon as they hit that third party that the certificates were going to get created and sent to us. And so we lost about 3 weeks of being able to do something with those stocks. And of course, by the time we figured it out and got it all transferred it all...
Marketplace dynamics, things change. And so unfortunately, we lost some money, but you just have to be aware of everything.
You have to be aware, and you have to make sure that you understand what they're telling you and that you follow up that what they say is actually correct of what's going to happen, especially when it comes to stocks, which are a little trickier.
Yeah, and another thing, both Linda and I were fortunate enough to get some stock awards from a recognition program, but what we didn't realize is we had to transfer that all over before we were leaving the company. And I know that for you, Linda,
I had them buried.
Right, you found your certificates after, undoing your boxes, and me, dummy me, had them right safely warm in my briefcase, but I didn't even realize they were right right there, and I could have done something with them, and now that's lost money. And unfortunately, when you're, under tight budgets now and you don't have a steady paycheck coming in, it would have helped.
Absolutely. So you just make sure that you understand all the financial compensation components as you're leaving your pay, and make sure that you get them. Even things like if you have like commuter reimbursement and any other things that your company does for you, make sure that you follow up. I myself forgot that I had commuter reimbursement available, and I forgot to send in some of my receipts. So I left the company, and then it didn't qualify anymore.
Yep.
Okay, so just make sure that you have all those things, keeping track of that. So the other is about financial advice. So we're going to cover 2 potential options that you may want to look at.
Okay, so if you're lucky like we were, our company provided financial and planning advisors. You should really make sure that you take advantage of them, right? To get you through all these different questions and make sure you're doing everything correctly, because you don't want to lose money like we did.
Exactly. And then the other thing is, if you have a financial advisor, which I did, I was lucky enough. I've had one for over 20 years, steady me.
So, Linda just talked about the fact that she, had a financial advisor all along, right? And I haven't. So it's really important that you really get one. You consider it. And I like the fact that I went to Linda and said, you're happy with yours. Can you hook me up with her? Can I have her name and number?
Yep.
Because again, it's all about that trust factor, because you're talking about your financial future. So
Right.
it's important.
And so, referrals are probably the best way for you to get a list of some financial advisors, especially for people who've had them for a really long time, like someone like myself. Like after 20 years, whether or not this person is doing things that are going to be of benefit to you and not just them.
Right, in your best interest.
Absolutely, in my best interest. So I felt very confident, actually, in giving the person's name to Shelley. I had no reservations whatsoever.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, and one of the things that was important to me is I wanted to make sure, as I was talking to her, that you're listening to my needs, you're going to meet my needs, and I won't have a clue what you're talking about if you're just going to use a whole bunch of financial jargon.
Right. So it's important that you don't just get the referral, but you actually take the time to meet with them and to go over some things to make sure that you feel comfortable with them. Just because someone else who you trust feels comfortable, you have to have that same level of comfort. So some of the things that you may want to consider or be aware of when you're looking at a financial advisor. So one thing that I found out about is that there's a website that you can go to look at some financial investment tools. Like, it just talks about what they are, some general information.
What's the name of the website?
It's FINRA, FINRA.org. And actually, one of the services that they do, or capabilities within that website, is you can do a broker check. So it gives you basically almost like a LinkedIn profile of your financial, of the financial advisor that you may be interested in, to look at the history and the ratings. Is there any inconsistencies in what they've been doing? And so it's a good way to make sure that you feel like you can have trust and that they're reputable.
Yeah, you want to build that credibility, right? That's important. So that's cool.
Okay. So again, that's FINRA, FINRA.org.
Right. So once you do that, and we really do advise that you do it because I think it's a great idea, then there are some other questions that you really want to kind of ask your advisor, once you have identified them and you feel good about them. What is their fee structure? What's their average size of the account? Do they run things? Do they have things at, 500,000 to like 20 million? And I'll tell you, for me, I'm not in the 20 million range.
You're not?
No, I'm not. I wish I was, because I wouldn't be working. I would just do my podcast and nothing else, which I would love to do anyway. But you know what? If most of those clients are in that upper range, you might not want to, use them, because they might think about, financial investments different than what you need.
And also, from a time perspective, how much time are they going to give you if your account is
You're
in
a
the
little
lower
smidge.
range?
You're a
exactly.
smidge.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to be, part of that little, they never really call you back.
And then the other thing that you want to consider, not only is the average amount that they manage, but also how many clients they have. What we've learned is you want to look for someone who has about 100 to 150, because when it gets above that, you're really not going to get their time.
Yeah.
And are they going to be able to do the due diligence and be proactive on your account? versus not. So the other thing is they'll give you a sense of how they go about, how they can proactively and, ability to monitor your accounts but the other thing is, how often will they meet with you? Is it going to be face to face? Is it calls? Just get an understanding of how they're going to do the communication